Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Efforts and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. Let us never negotiate out of fear. But let us never fear to negotiate. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. We must use time as a tool, not as a couch. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Victory has 1,000 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. Our problems are man-made, therefore they may be solved by man. And man can be as big as he wants. Let us never forget that government is ourselves and not an alien power over us. The ultimate rulers of our democracy are not a president and senators and congressmen and government officials, but the voters of this country. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. We are not afraid to entrust the American people with unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people. Peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process, gradually changing opinions, slowly eroding old barriers, quietly building new structures. The great enemy of the truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. The problems of the world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by the obvious realities. We need men who can dream of things that never were. A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on. Let us think of education as the means of developing our greatest abilities. Because in each of us there is a private hope and dream which, fulfilled, can be translated into benefit for everyone and greater strength for our nation. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. The human mind is our fundamental resource. The problems of this world cannot be solved by unsound economic policies or by any single country acting alone. They can only be solved by a partnership between rich and poor nations, between strong and weak nations. In a time of turbulence and change, it is more true than ever that knowledge is power. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. The problems of society will also be the problems of science. I'm an idealist without illusions. Tolerance implies no lack of commitment to one's own beliefs. Rather, it condemns the oppression or persecution of others. The world is changing. The old era is ending. The old ways will not do. Efforts and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. I look forward to a great future for America, a future in which our country will match its military strength with our moral restraint. Its wealth with our wisdom, its power with our purpose. The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. A nation which has forgotten the quality of courage which in the past has been brought to public. Life is not as likely to insist upon or regard that quality in its chosen leaders today, and in fact we have forgotten. Forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda, it is a form of truth. The great French Marshal Liut once asked his gardener to plant a tree. The gardener objected that the tree was slow growing and would not reach maturity for 100 years. The marshal replied, "In that case, there is no time to lose, plant it this afternoon." Things do not happen. Things are made to happen. We have the power to make this the best generation of mankind in the history of the world or to make it the last. Peace, like charity, begins at home. In a time of domestic crisis, men of goodwill and generosity should be able to unite regardless of party or politics. If not us, who? If not now, when? Mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. The only reason to give a speech is to change the world. I think this is the most extraordinary collection of talent, of human knowledge, that has ever been gathered together at the White House. With the possible exception of when Thomas Jefferson dined alone. I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president who happens also to be a Catholic. The goal of education is the advancement of knowledge and the dissemination of truth. The problems of the world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by the obvious realities. We need men who can dream of things that never were. Our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future. And we are all mortal. The very word, secrecy, is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths and to secret proceedings. The highest appreciation is not to utter words but to live by them. The problems of man are not just technical ones. If we fail to recognize this, we shall be defeated before we even start. I am confident that after the dust of centuries has passed over our cities, we, too, will be remembered not for our victories or defeats in battle or in politics, but for our contribution to the human spirit. If we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. The basis of effective government is public confidence, and that confidence is endangered when ethical standards falter or appear to falter. Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. For time and the world do not stand still. Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. Tolerance implies no lack of commitment to one's own beliefs. Rather, it condemns the oppression or persecution of others. I am sorry to say that there is too much point to the wisecrack that life is extinct on other planets because their scientists were more advanced than ours. We prefer world law in the age of self-determination to world war in the age of mass extermination. A child miseducated is a child lost. The great enemy of the truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive and unrealistic. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. If we do not abolish war on this earth, then surely one day war will abolish us from the earth. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. The human mind is our fundamental resource.